Hello, 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 everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Supply Cap Podcast. My name is Matthew kaRmy Mulholland, and with me is my co-host.
Derek Theory Travisano.
How you doing today, Derek?
Doing pretty good. Yeah, it's currently September 4th. We're about a month into Stormgate Early Access.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, how are you doing, Matt?
Good, good. As you can see behind me, I moved places pretty recently, so please don't mind the mess. Haven't had the chance to fully set up my office yet, but nice enough to look okay for the podcast today. But speaking about moving, I guess you haven't moved, but you've been kind of the globetrotter for the early access of Stormgate so far. So as of late, you've been to South Korea and then Saudi Arabia for the Esports World Cup, and then obviously a plethora of online tournaments as well. Let's start back from the beginning. How was the Tasteless TV showdown in South Korea?
Yeah, so the first week of August, August 3rd and 4th, essentially the first week of Stormgate Early Access, I was lucky enough to be invited to South Korea to play in the Tasteless TV Showdown for Stormgate.
Mm,
Um, that was one of the most fun events I've been to for RTS. Tasteless as well as Core A Studios, they ran a pretty fantastic event for the players. Production was great. Um, the setup and support for the players was amazing. They they had all meals catered. They
mm,
had a place for us to stay. They had our names on all the Airbnb doors. We had like
mm.
a place to stay, all the foreigners. It was really cool. And
Yeah, they seemed to really take great care of you while you were there. From all the videos and pictures you sent us just behind the scenes, it looked like they really wanted the players to feel welcomed and feel like they didn't have to worry about much while they were down there.
it was really well done. And I'm really
Yeah.
thankful to have been invited to that. I've never been to Home Story Cup, but it felt like it kind of had that vibe where
Mm.
everyone's just hanging out, playing RTS, just having a good time. Um, and
Yeah, like the good old
ultimately,
days.
yeah, the good. Yeah, it kind of reminded me of the old StarCraft 2 days where it's not like there's a huge stadium and a lot of
Hmm.
pressure. It kind of was. I didn't really feel nervous. It was a pretty laid back event, even though it was like very competitive.
Right.
Um,
But for you personally, like how was that event going into it? Because I know obviously you and I met back in like 2011, back in StarCraft 2 when we played on the first pro team together, Team Legion. Kind of always been our dream to live in Korea and compete in these worldwide events, and now that you're having the chance to do that with Stormgate. What was that like for you as kind of getting your second opportunity in life to be a pro gamer? Because back in the day with StarCraft 2, you were a student. Obviously, you couldn't put all your effort into it. Still had a lot of great success, but couldn't really fulfill that dream. So it seems now like you're kind of living that out perfectly. So what did that event in Korea mean for you?
yeah, it's a little bit emotional, but yeah, I always wanted to go to Korea. If not to play RTS, to at least just watch it and experience it. Because I've watched Brood
Mm,
War growing up as a kid. I'd load up VLC bootlegs, streams of the Korean channels just to watch the Korean broadcasts. So to
mhm.
actually go to Korea to compete in RTS, I've always wanted to do that. So it was really a dream come true opportunity. 10 years ago, I would have never imagined myself being one of those players. I was in school, I had no money. Uh, it was a very different time in my life. I loved
Mhm.
StarCraft, but like there was no opportunity for me to really compete in it besides like local LAN tournaments and Mickey Mouse tournament type things.
Right. Well, I mean,
So
you qualified for the Red Bull the battlegrounds there. That was a pretty big
yeah,
achievement back in the day. Yeah,
that was pretty
but
big. That was still like that was like my last year of college though. Like I was
mm,
making a little bit of money at that point. Game was already kind of on the downhill because I think Pro League had just died or whatever.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, it's like you said. Got to fulfill what I couldn't in my first RTS lifetime.
yeah,
But yeah, it was very cool. I got fourth place. Uh,
perfect.
I'm pretty happy with the result. I was really hoping to get second place. I lost 3-2 to Parting
Mm,
in a best of 6, I suppose.
yeah.
um, which was very close. I played Celestial my off race. At the time, Infernals couldn't win, so I played Celestial in that matchup.
Mhm.
And then in losers bracket, I got bopped by a laser. He really came to play and kind of dominated me in Parting.
Yeah, he had a great event. So did Probe. I've always known Probe's been a strong player, but in the past, like beta test, he hasn't played a whole lot of tournaments. So going into this event, like he was a bit of an unknown per se. Obviously a great player, right? Love Probe, very good player, but I didn't expect him to be the one coming out on top with all the players that were invited. And he played some fantastic Stormgate. It was great to watch him. Really happy for him. So shout out, congrats to Probe. Was that a result that kind of surprised you as well? Like, obviously, people thought Harding was going to win it going into it. You were very confident going in as well. Obviously, you have great players with Kiwi in, and you had Percival, so you had Kiwi in, and you had a Laser, and who else is there? There's a handful of players
Probe,
invited from, yeah,
Migi, me,
Miggy,
Nightmare,
Nightmare.
a laser, and Clem.
Oh, was Kiwi not invited? Am I
Kieran
mixing
was
them up
there.
here?
Yeah, Kieran was
Oh,
there.
okay. All right, I thought so. Yeah. So I mean, that's a pretty stacked up lineup of
Yeah.
players to try to run through.
Yeah, it was a lot of the best players. The only players I think that were um, really missing were like Lucifron, Vortex, Mana, Percival, Snoxtar. Those are probably some of the big names that weren't there, but you had all the other um, heavy hitters, I think.
Right.
Excuse me if I missed somebody, but yeah,
A lot of
Probe winning,
talent.
that was awesome.
Mhm.
He's always been good. I didn't expect him to win the event. I knew a Celestial would win the event, um, but I didn't expect it to be Probe per se.
Right.
Uh, I knew he was a great player because whenever I played in the alphas, he was the player I was the most scared of in every tank. Like I did not
Mm.
want to hit Probe, even though he was playing Vanguard at the time. So for him to come in playing Celestial is a little bit of an unknown, but he definitely, even though he's probably the not predicted to have won the whole thing, he definitely has had the potential to win the whole thing, like in any
Right.
condition. I think, yeah. So yeah,
Yeah,
I'm pretty
especially with it coming in
impressed.
as yeah, because that tournament came out even before early access was available. So even the pro players, everyone that was invited, didn't have a whole lot of time to play the game leading up to that tournament. So it really like kind of I think really showed his strength as when he picks up a new faction as Celestials and no one else really knows how to do it. He's the one that was able to figure it out and kind of showcase how good Celestials can be, which was obviously great to watch. He's been very, very good person to have in the community. I love watching his videos. So congrats to Probe. That's awesome to see. Um, moving on to you, because you also traveled pretty shortly after that to the Esports World Cup in Saudi Arabia. You got invited to the Stormgate Invitational there, the 4-player event, where we had the fortunate to watch that all aftermath finals, you and versus Parting. Walk us through that. How did that event go for you? Because seeing the videos and pictures from there too, it looked like an absolute dream come true of a whole esports city dedicated to the World Cup. So what was that like for you?
Yeah, super thankful for the opportunity again. I don't think I was. I don't think they announced. I'm pretty sure I was a replacement for someone who couldn't make it, so I kind of got last minute invited.
Mm,
Really thankful to have been on the invite list. I think I maybe raised my draft stock a little bit by getting second place. So I'm pretty happy with my result. I wish I didn't get 3-0'd in the finals by Parting, but I'm just glad I made it to the finals. It was an amazing opportunity. The event itself, Esports World Cup, is like heaven on earth for gamers.
mm-hmm.
The Boulevard City where it was held is truly amazing. All of these venues and restaurants and activities in this it's almost like an esports theme park, all dedicated to this Esports World Cup event. It's truly the most amazing esports event I've ever been to.
Right.
Even
It
though
looked like it.
Stormgate was very small,
Yeah.
just going to see the other events, and seeing how StarCraft was going. I was there to watch StarCraft a little bit, to see just how grand the stadiums and stages were. Everything about this place. It's like, I can't believe it was real, and it was just for the Esports World Cup.
Right.
I know it's a far away place for people to travel, but I have to say, at least once in your esports lifetime, you need to go
Check it
go
out.
travel to Riyadh and see the Esports World Cup, because
Yeah.
it's unlike, the scale of it is unlike anything I've ever seen for esports.
Yeah, they put a lot of thought and obviously money into to making that come true. And I think with Saudi Arabia's investment and involvement going forward, I don't see a reason why, if you wanted to be in esports, you wouldn't end up visiting there at least one time, right? Because now you
Yeah.
have obviously Esports World Cup. They've have come out and said they're going to do obviously more of those. They have the Olympics coming through, a 12-year partnership with Saudi Arabia to host that. The Esports Awards are going to be held there. And they also have the Esports Summit that they hosted right afterwards as well. So, I mean, if you're in the esports landscape at all, if you're a fan, a player, if you're looking to own an organization, be a manager, I feel like that's just going to be the place to be. And more and more often in the future, we'll have opportunities to go there. I wanted to get down there myself when you guys got the invite. Unfortunately, couldn't put it together scheduling wise, but by next year we'll definitely have to be making another trip out there to just to be a part of it, right? Because just being a part of that atmosphere just feels so different. It reminds me of
Yeah.
just the MLGs back in the day, but obviously on a larger scale.
Yeah, it was truly an honor to be part of the first, I guess, Esports World Cup. I hope that they have more RTS there in the future, whether it's StarCraft, Stormgate, or something else.
Got a lot coming down the pipeline. You have battleaces, you have Zero Space, you have Age of Empires just launched another game, and on Twitter too. I know StarCraft was trending in the on gaming section because people were replying to the Esports World Cup tweet asking what game they had the most fun watching there, and they just got I think the most amount of support through with StarCraft. People were coming out in waves to try and make sure that they were heard and supported, which is good to see. Obviously, we love StarCraft too, right? Though we're pretty well invested in Stormgate and battleaces, we obviously still just love RTS as a whole. So seeing it succeed and seeing the game, seeing Clem win, that was phenomenal too. I got the chance to watch that, and he just dismembered everybody. There wasn't another person on his level. I don't think I've ever seen StarCraft played at such a high level. It was unbelievable, really.
He put on a show. It's funny because I saw the caster predictions of who's going to win the event. I even tweeted. This is way before he won. I was like, "Where are the Clem predictions?" or something on Twitter. I retweeted it after he made it to the finals. But I thought Clem had a good shot. And I talked to Clem a lot in Korea actually. He seemed confident, and we were asking like, "Oh, can anyone beat Cyril?" He's like, "Oh yeah, Cyril's beatable." Like he seemed confident.
And then he did it.
He showed it. Yeah,
sure did. Yeah, he dropped him. He beat him what 7-0 over or
I think. Yeah, maybe
he beat him 4-0 in the finals because of best of 7, and then 3-0.
I think he 5-0'd him. Best of 9.
Oh, was it a best? Oh, it was a best of 9. You're right. Yeah, he 5-0'd him. They went 8-0. I think they won a best of 5 earlier against him. He didn't drop a single map the entire tournament, did he?
I think he dropped 2 games to Raynor, I think.
Oh, really? Oh, damn, that's impressive.
Yeah.
Good for Raynor.
But I mean,
wow,
he dominated that tournament. That's 100%. For sure.
Yeah, I'm glad to see that happen. I want to see more dominance like that happen and more with RTS in the future. Because it just goes to show how dedicated the RTS genre and scene is, right? The fan base is still strong with StarCraft after 14 years, and you're still seeing amazing new games come out from Clem. That's you think the game's been figured out entirely, and people have kind of hit their peaks, and you kind of have this hierarchy of players who kind of hold on to their seedings, and then Clem just comes out of nowhere, and he's like, "Nah, I'm just kidding. I'm just gonna throw a wrench in everything and win the whole tournament, playing the best StarCraft 2 anyone's ever seen."
Yeah, that really was like the best StarCraft I've ever seen. Just no mistakes, microing 2 groups of stim marines. I don't even know how he did it. I'd like to see his first-person view.
Trying to keep up as a spectator was hard enough, right? Imagine trying to play that when you're macroing and you're microing 2 different areas and you're trying to think ahead, and you're also playing against a player like Cyril, who's unbelievable at the exact same aspects, right? And you're outplaying him. Like, you just have to be on another level. It's kind of it was crazy to watch.
Yeah. Shout out to Clem for winning that. That was definitely a spectacle to watch, and hopefully that has some influence on him. Whether we'll see more RTS at the World Cup, because there was a ton of fans watching it. It really was a highlight of the event, of the whole event. I think it was Clem's run through that tournament and how well he played.
Absolutely. That storyline was phenomenal. Yeah, just that's the type of stuff that really gets me excited about esports. You can't create storylines like that out of thin air. Like it just happens. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's great to see. And I'm really excited to see the future of it. I really hope that they keep RTS in the space. I really hope they can find ways of incorporating more RTS genres and building that fan base, because it seems to be kind of a obviously not a long forgotten genre, because StarCraft 2 is still around and still doing okay, but it seems like it hasn't really been growing, and it's still the same fans that were of StarCraft back when you and I played. Is kind of still the same group of people that are around it today. So really excited to see where that goes. Hopefully some of the up and comers can help expand that audience, or maybe even see Blizzard decide to turn around and give StarCraft 2 the support and love it deserves too, right? Because that game has been proven to be just an absolute titan of the industry. Either give it some more support or start development of StarCraft 3. That would be phenomenal too. But we'll see where that road takes us. Anyways, talking about development of games, as you mentioned, we've been into the early access of Stormgate for the past month, right? You and I have been fortunate enough to be playing the game since the first alpha and seeing all the iterations that came with it and all the design and creation of the game, basically from a player standpoint. The early access was launched to mixed reviews, obviously. Some of them valid, and some of them I think are a little bit misplaced. I think people had a different idea of what early access meant coming into this and had different expectations. So we'll just take some time to talk about that. So for me personally, my first impression is I love the 1v1. I'm a 1v1 ladder player. That's kind of where I've spent most of my time on Stormgate, and I think fundamentally it's a fantastic experience. I think it's very unique. It feels great to play. It the balance is obviously always a journey. You're never going to have that perfect, but the game's also brand new. People have to remember that the first MLG event was won by Naniwa, doing nothing but 4-gate all the way through the entire tournament. It was a PvP finals, 4-gate versus 4-gate. So I mean, the game still needs time to mature before you get into these longer macro sort of situations. But as far as balance is concerned, it feels pretty good. The mechanics feel great. I feel like the game's in a really good spot 1v1 wise. Obviously, there was a lot of criticism about the campaign mode, which is where I think people needed to rein in their expectations a little bit. Where obviously it's great to have your criticisms, because as Frostchina has shown, they're watching, right? They're reading everything and they're implementing stuff that people want and have suggested. But that's one of them that kind of, for me at least, irked me the wrong way, just because it's been very much discussed that it's early access and they're still developing the game with the players having the say and having the chance to play it. So there's going to be a lot of unfinished things. The campaign was playable. I thought it was fun. It was enjoyable, but people were upset the mouse didn't move in the campaigns or in the cinematics, right? Which, sure, that's a fair criticism, but people like tore the game apart, saying it was a shit game and just saying all this nasty stuff because it was just an unfinished placeholder model that they've come out and said they're going to fix in the future. So stuff like that, obviously, right? Like people have their own opinions, and you want people to be able to criticize the game and help it grow. But I felt like that was a little bit unjust for where it's at in its development cycle. What's your first thoughts for early access as of now?
Yeah, so there's three main game modes, I think. Campaign, co-op, and 1v1 that have been released so far. We don't yet have arcade, 3v3, or other team game modes. So we'll talk about the ones that are out. Co-op, I think, is it's definitely in an early access state. It's not as good as StarCraft 2 co-op yet, but they're working on it. The progression still feels a little bit less satisfying than StarCraft, but I think it's just because it's unfinished.
Mm.
But it's not a bad game mode, I think. I played the campaign. I didn't finish it. I played the first 4 missions. I haven't had time to complete it. I didn't care about the cinematics, mouths not moving and stuff, because I mean it's early access. I don't really care. The missions, they felt like Brood War missions, kind of. I didn't really like playing the Brood War campaign. I'm not gonna lie. Sorry, any hardcore Brood War fans. But I kind of had like the same feel, like, oh, I completed the mission. But I care more about the storyline in this type of game. StarCraft 2 campaign was a lot better than Brood Wars as far as gameplay, but storyline was lacking, I think. It depends what you're looking for. I think if you're looking for like StarCraft 2 quality campaign, the game is definitely not there yet. But if you're looking
Right.
for like Brood War level campaign, it's probably on the track to something like that currently. Um, but a lot of the criticism is fair. I think that it's not as far along as they would have hoped. Frostbite seems to be listening, and I have faith they'll do the right thing and get it
Mhm.
finished. Just hopefully it's as quickly as everyone is aligned with. I know they're talking about the 1.0 milestone, so I don't know when that is, but hopefully these things are all kind of polished up by the 1.0 milestone.
Yeah, when I had the opportunity to go down there and visit Frostgiant a couple months ago down in LA, there had the chance to go for lunch with some of the members there, and their philosophy really was that they didn't have a set date that they wanted to have the actual full launch shot. They wanted to launch a finished product, right? That obviously changes as things move forward, right? It's still a business you have to run, so hopefully they can still kind of withhold their full launch until the game is in a very finished state. Because on paper, when you look at all the features they want to include and where the fundamentals of
There's
the
a
game are
lot of
now,
stuff they want to do, yeah.
and there's so much potential, right? Like if you just look at the fundamentals of the one versus one, right? I mean, that's the biggest thing for us, right? Is one versus one for us is a big deal, and that feels really good. Even as of now, it feels like a great
Yeah.
thing, right?
Yeah, the
And if you,
1v1 mode is great, I think.
it's fantastic. I've had more fun playing Stormgate 1v1 ladder than I ever did playing StarCraft 2, and I played StarCraft 2 full time for 3 years, right? So
Yeah.
I don't say that lightly.
Yeah, 1v1 is already in a good state, I think.
Mm,
The fact that you have to like split up your armies, kill multiple creep camps, capture points, multiple objectives, I think it's pretty great. And the balance is actually very good. I know a lot of people are upset with balance, but the
yeah,
game is pretty balanced right now. There's a couple like dumb strategies on certain maps, like dogs and Isle of Dread can't really be held, or infernals can turtle too hard on Dragon Maw. I mean, there's very few instances like that in the current balance as of September.
right.
Uh, so I feel like a lot of the balance things are just complaints are, yeah, there's annoyances, but a lot of it's skill issues. Not
Yeah.
gonna lie, I think it's skill issues.
And I mean, you see that too online. We'll talk more about it later, but
Yeah,
Snockstar, right, an Infernal player
yeah,
who has had a very successful run against Vanguard
mm,
players where people thought that it was impossible to beat Vanguard timings, right? Like he seems to have that matchup pretty well figured out, right? So he's kind of proving that it isn't just imbalanced, it is a strategy and skill issue realistically, right? Whether that aligns with your playstyle or not, it is still beatable. So it's not really an imbalance. It's more or less like you just got to cater to what works, right?
yeah,
But as I've always said too, right? There's never a finish line on balance. It's an ongoing marathon, right? You're always going to be balancing the game. It's going to be changing and iterating all the time. So for it to be in the state it's in now, where it's a pretty damn good balanced game, it really gives me confidence moving into the future where they start adding in more tier 3 units and potentially another faction in the future that ever comes to fruition. I feel very I feel confident that Frostgiant has what it takes to make sure that that game is balanced well and fun to play on the
yeah.
one, the ladder.
And
But yeah, other than
and
that, oh, go ahead.
but yeah, just to add on to 1v1, I think there is like comments. I think because all the modes have gotten criticism, but I think 1v1 mode has gotten the least fair
Right.
criticism. I think I see a lot of comments in like Twitch chat or Discords that are like severely misguided, and there's some merit to that because perhaps like other modes that lure people in, like campaign co-op, they failed to get the vision across or the understanding of the 1v1 mode across to where people can appreciate it or learn it and understand it.
Mhm.
So there is some merit to these complaints, but I'll see complaints like work it's just Warcraft 4. Okay, well, in Warcraft you make 12 workers total the entire game. You never expand. You have a hero, you buy items, and you
Yeah.
just buff up a hero with support units and you fight 50 supply versus 50 supply. There's
Yeah.
really no similarity between that and the way 1v1 plays in Stormgate. And then I'll see comments like it's too slow. I'm like, how is this slow? It's 2 minutes in. I've killed 2 creep camps. There's vectors killing my worker line. Like this game
Yeah.
is chaotic. Like it's
Yeah.
slow is probably not the word, but perhaps their games look slow because they don't know how to play yet, and
Yeah,
maybe
maybe they're
that's a
not getting the
gap.
map control on there quick enough. But yeah,
Yeah.
I think if they're still trying to play like StarCraft 2, that's the wrong way to play it, right? Like the creep camps in this game are so vastly different than Warcraft. Like, yeah, there's creep camps, cool, but they're so fundamentally different, like you talked about earlier, is that yeah, like in Warcraft, you kill the creep camps to get the items to buff up your hero. In this game, like they actually buff your units. They help with your economy too, right? So
Yeah.
there's a lot of instances where you see people that can play a bit more of an aggressive one-base style that maintains map control, and then they don't have to worry about a fast expanding opponent because, like, okay, like you have the economy, but I'll shore that up with the creep camps and map control, right? So it opens up a lot of strategy, which I personally really enjoy. And you're right, even when you look at where StarCraft 2 was at the launch of its game, right? I remember the fastest 4-gate timing was at like 4 minutes and 15 seconds or 4 minutes 20 seconds that you'd be trying to warp in at your opponent's base, right? And that's like the
Yeah.
fastest, most aggressive timing outside of like a proxy 2-gate or 6-pool or stuff like that, right? But now you have, yeah, like you said, you have vectors in your base at 2 minutes and 15 seconds and you're on the map
Oh, it's like
creeping
1
right
minute
away.
and 30 seconds. It's even faster.
Yeah.
Like,
And you've got your scouting right away. Like the game opens you up to immediate action, right? Like once the game starts, you have the option to slap down infrastructure to build, right? To get units on the map, go take
yeah.
the actual creep camps. And you're always doing something. If you're not doing something in Stormgate, you're not playing it properly.
Yeah,
Truthfully,
that's
like
how I
there's
feel too. Because you're
yeah,
balancing like your macro economy with creeping economy, and it's kind of
right.
a hand in hand thing. Which I kind of like the 50-50 balance right now. I don't know how they're going to shift it or what people want, but it's StarCraft players have to think a little bit more outside the box. Because in StarCraft players are gonna hate me for saying this, but you do fuck all for the first 4 minutes. You take
Yeah,
you build a wall and you build 3 bases right away
yeah,
as Protoss, and then the game starts like, oh, do they decide to kill my third, or oh, do I cancel my third and do an all in? Do I not take a third and all in? For the first 3 or 4 minutes, you do fuck all.
yeah.
Like,
It is
um,
just straight up macro, unless you're doing something really cheesy, really all in, like one base play. But that's mostly figured out nowadays too, so it's
yeah,
not
and at
as
the pro level,
prevalent.
you never see it. Like,
Yeah,
we know how to hold 12 pools now, so
yeah,
it's yeah. So like hearing the game is slow. I don't know what RTS is faster, like as far as a ramp up time.
yeah.
Time to kill is certainly slower than StarCraft, but it's not that much slower than StarCraft. Like
But
I
it's
hear,
significantly better that way. Like if you watch
yeah,
we'll get in this event too, the Stormgate Nexus that Beomov hosted. There was a fight between I think it was a laser and who was it? Was it Kiwian? I forget who he was fighting, but it was like
Percival,
it was Percival, yeah, Kiwian or
yeah,
a laser versus Percival. It was like a 5 minute ongoing back and forth fight of just crazy micro, crazy fight. And it wasn't just like a clash versus clash. So they're going back and forth and they were winning fights. And then he came back and microed. He had like one Atlas drop he's going everywhere with. And then they're still macroing behind it. Like the time to kill might be slower, but it makes for way more engaging combat too. Like StarCraft 2, you would lose a fight in 3 seconds
game's
and
over.
then the game's over. You're fucked. You lose, right? Like you
Yeah,
walk in, the Terran EMPs your army, you lose. Or you walk in, you land your Psi Storms and you win, right? Like it's just and that's not very engaging gameplay either, right? So yeah, the time to kill might be a little bit longer, but it allows for a different skill window, and it also allows for a bit of a comeback mechanic in a sense if you're able to retreat and reinforce, and you don't have to rebuild a 200 army in 10 seconds, right? So different game, right? If it's not for you, then I can't really convince you otherwise. But I do agree that I think a lot of the criticism for that is definitely misguided.
yeah, and perhaps there's some merit to people not understanding because maybe the game didn't get the vision across, or
Mhm.
maybe there's not enough streamers and guides right now. But
I think we
uh,
should shore up on that at Aftermath. Maybe we should try to put more content out for that very thing.
yeah, like how to balance economy with creeping or something.
Yeah,
Because the game is
we'll write
very
that down.
fast. As far as ramp up, and even like late game, the time to kill is actually pretty high. Like people are complaining, like people complain the game's too slow, but people are like, oh, like my army melts to Hexens or melts to Atlas. Like
Yeah.
there's things in the game that one shot things. Like
Oh, for sure. And there's very definite counters, right? So there's definitely like if you don't know what your
yeah,
opponent's doing enough and you don't have the right strategy, you're going to get melted. Absolutely, right?
yeah,
But that's RTS in general. Scout better.
right. And
So
the
just
time to kill is not that much more than StarCraft. It's not like Warcraft where I have a 1,000 HP unit and my
mhm.
units do 21 damage. Right,
Yeah.
it takes 50 hits to kill it.
It has like a raid boss level mechanic in there, basically.
Yeah, so this game is really nothing like Warcraft 3 besides that they both have creep camps.
Yeah,
But
that
they're
are
totally
fundamentally,
different.
yeah, so much different. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so outside of 1v1, obviously we have 3v3 coming later this year. I'm excited to see what they're going to do with that because they've kind of said they're taking inspiration from like RTS and MOBAs, and they don't want the games to last super long, or they kind of want them around that 10-minute mark, which opens up a lot of possibilities for really cool interactions. We have no information on 3v3 yet. I wish we had more because it's an exciting topic to think about. But I think that has a lot of potential if they do it properly to really invigorate a different level of RTS players. Maybe bring in some of the MOBA audience, which would be great. If you can kind of have that bridge to bring in a new audience, is gonna be great. But then we also have the editor, what they're calling the snow play engine, right? Where they're trying to make through the actual editor for the in-game, like the very powerful editor, something I don't think has really been done on this scale. Obviously, Fortnite has a very powerful editor that's been successful, but having the assets of an RTS game opens up a lot of different avenues for creativity. And we've seen how creative the RTS community can get with even just a Stormgate or the StarCraft 2 map editor. So it's going to be really interesting to see how that plays into things. I think that has an insanely large market in and of itself, just because of how much you can bring to the table as far as arcade games is concerned. How do you feel about that? Because I know, like I said, that's a huge one. There's potential talks about them being able to monetize their creations in game, whether that's comes to fruition or not. There's still the chances of a lot of added extras just for having this editor within the client.
Yeah. So I guess starting with 3v3 mode, I think that's going to be pretty cool. I don't know what to expect yet.
Yeah,
But
same.
if they can capture the team game magic of like Warcraft 3, I think it could be pretty epic. And then you could play with your friends more. It feels a little bit more like a social RTS.
Yeah.
But we don't really have a lot of information about that yet. Um, so we could talk about it more in the future. Um, and then the editor, I think that comes out with 1.0 release or targeted. I think that's key to growth in this game because that really gets people to play. Because then you invite your friends to play some random game like in StarCraft Ice Battling Escape or in Warcraft 3.
Right.
Like, oh, let's play Dota. Dota came from Warcraft 3 editor.
Yeah.
Someone made it as a fan game, or as a custom community game.
Yeah.
Things like auto chess were made in the Dota editor, which turned into auto chess and TFT. So having a powerful editor in Stormgate with the Unreal Engine and not to mention their Snowplay engine, which allows for like zero ping and stuff, and the rollback, so you can play worldwide with your friends. I think that opens up kind of this worldwide arcade playground, which will attract a lot of casual players and will ultimately grow the game for people who are more interested in the other modes. And that's
Right.
how a lot of people got into StarCraft. I think
Yeah.
StarCraft pros mention all the time, like, oh, I played arcade first. I played
Yeah.
use map settings first. I think that'll be key for Stormgate as well. It's hard to get a casual to play the sweatiest genre in the world without something to kind of ease them into it.
Yeah, and I do agree with that too, because I know when I started playing StarCraft 2, same thing. It was a lot of 2v2, 3v3s with friends, just having fun, playing a lot of Footman Frenzy in the StarCraft 2 arcade, and then transition into one versus one when my friends weren't on, and that's kind of how I was able to get into StarCraft, right? But you have a really good point where that brings in a very good opportunity for a lot of players to play with their friends, play casual, get their hands on the game, kind of get them into the game client, and then kind of push them towards other aspects too. It's like, oh, did you enjoy this arcade game? Like, well, how about you try a 2 versus 2 or 3 versus 3 or 3 VAI or a co-op game, or how about you play a little bit of 1v1, like see how you do on the ladder, right? Like just try and just sink your teeth into it a little bit more. I think that's a really exciting opportunity for the game as a whole. And yeah, once that comes out, like I said, if they can get through to a full launch of a game, the possibilities are endless, right? They have so much incredible things going into this game that once they're able to actually implement all of them, it's really hard to think that they wouldn't succeed after that point, right? Obviously, they've got an uphill battle getting to that point, but they have an incredible team behind them to actually pull that together and bring it across the finish line. So
Yeah.
here at Aftermath, we're obviously still strong fast in our dedication to the esports side of things, to the game, to the RTS community as a whole, and we're not changing up any of our ideas or operations. We're still moving forward just as we were before, with
Yeah,
just
I'm
as
having
much
fun.
conviction.
Like
Yeah, 100%. Me
nothing
too.
changed for me. Like
Yeah,
perhaps people in the community didn't get what they expected, but I mean, game's gotten better since I've started playing it in the alpha. It keeps improving. I'm
100%.
having a great time.
Yeah, and I think that's the difference too, is that we've had the opportunity to play since the alpha, so we've seen every iteration from like just the tier one Vanguard units that were placeholders to like the launch of Infernals that also had a lot of placeholders to, excuse me, during the Elephant playtest where it was kind of, it felt like pretty fleshed out two factions that felt amazing, and then the frigate build with the Celestials, and then from to early access where they changed it up how pretty much every faction played entirely. It felt like so they're doing the right things, and they're not afraid to try new things too, which is exciting. So yeah, all we can really say to that is realistically, guys, if early access isn't for you, I get it. You know, like if you're looking for that finished campaign, if you're looking for all these finished features, then yeah, just take a break. Come back in a year when the game is in full launch mode, then give it a try then, right? Because Frost Giant's putting a lot of effort into it. They're doing a lot of great things, right? They already have an amazing fundamentals set for themselves, and they're committed to getting across the finish line with everybody enjoying it once it comes into full access, right? So just be
Yeah.
patient, give them the time, right? Obviously, give them criticism, but don't bash on the game without
Yeah, that
a lot of
doesn't help.
merit.
Yeah.
That doesn't help, right? If you hate the game, hey man, go play StarCraft 2, right? There's a lot of other RTS games out there. Don't have to play Stormgate, right? But just going to Reddit and shitting all over it because you didn't like that the campaign cinematics didn't have moving mouse. That's a bit unguided, right? Doesn't help anyone.
Yeah,
And
they know they're gonna fix that. Like
100%.
give
It's not like they're going to ship
constructive
that.
criticism. And constructive
Yeah.
criticism is good.
It's great. Yeah, it's important because Stormgate does Frost Giant listens. They've done it for everything with the balance, with the changes. They've done a lot of good things that the community has asked out of them so far.
Yeah. So yeah, definitely the game I think has crazy potential. Frost Giant listens and they've got a talented team behind it. They haven't
Yeah.
had the amount of development time StarCraft 2 had because they're a startup essentially. So they have to start generating revenue now. I mean, this is obvious. I don't know why
It's still a
people
business.
don't understand
Yeah.
this. They have to make money. Like obviously, people like don't hate
Yeah.
on them for making money.
Yeah.
But yeah, maybe it's not as fast as you like. That's fair criticism. But yeah, don't just say like, "Oh, the game is fucking shit." Like, okay, why is it fucking shit?
Yeah.
It's shit. Like, no. You need to give data. Like, why is it shit? Okay,
Yeah.
and then they
If it's
can.
just an opinion thing, then cool. Like I said, if you don't like the game,
Yeah,
play something
yeah. You don't
else.
have to play it, right? No one's
Yeah.
forcing you to play. It's free to play. Like, just
Yeah.
don't play it.
Yeah.
It's free. You
That's
didn't
it.
lose any money.
Yeah. And if you back the game, then give them time, right? If you're one of those investors, if you bought the bundles, just give them time. They're still cooking. They're going to do good. We've had the chance to talk with them directly. They have really smart people over at Frost Giant. Just
Yeah.
have some faith. They're going to do good things.
Cool. Yeah.
To talk about doing good things, I want to talk about Beowulf's, his Stormgate Nexus tournament that I think was so far, as far as like a gameplay standpoint, like the actual matches, my favorite tournament to watch so far. Even including like the EGC, EWC, the Tasteless Cup, all of them great events. They're all really well run. But Stormgate Nexus for me just had such a high level of gameplay shown that it was very entertaining. A lot of great matches that really showed the potential for what Stormgate can become. So shout out to Beowulf, did an amazing job with that game or with that event. He did all the production side of it himself. He had an amazing crew with him. He had a lot of great, talented people from the community and very well-known people from the RTS community that helped him run it, put the whole show on, and they really just put their whole heart and soul into running it. Congratulations, obviously, to Parting for winning the whole damn thing, and congrats to the 4 Aftermath players who qualified. Well, Derek and Parting, or Theory and Parting, were invited for being the 2 Giga Chads that they are. Albino qualified from North America, and Snockstar qualified from Europe. So we had a pretty good showing at that event. But yeah, big shout out to Beowulf. Shout out everyone that was at that event because that was just incredible. I loved watching it. I watched every single game. I was up early, watched the whole thing. All the games are fucking fantastic.
Yeah. That was definitely the highest level tournament so far. All the games were so good, and it shows the difference between like the meta of like the Tasteless Showdown, which is like literally like we've played the game for like one day and then played this tournament, compared to we played this game for a month and have a tournament from the comfort of our homes where where our skill level is the highest. The tournament was very good, and then the reception was like extremely positive from all sides and all outlets for that tournament. and it really showed the potential and the quality of high level matches, and it's only going to get better from here. So I know there's like, yeah, watching the Tasteless Showdown, like, oh yeah, like Theory doesn't know what the hell he's doing. He's a noob if you go and watch those games. Well, none of us knew back then, right? The game just came out. Like, maybe I look like a noob in those games, but I mean, we all were noobs back then, right?
Absolutely.
So as the meta evolves, the games are just gonna get better and better and more exciting. And Beowulf's tournament really did a good job putting it up to display, highlighting it, casting it. Fantastic job from Bayo and everyone who's involved with that.
Excuse me. Yeah, there's been a lot, like a plethora of a lot of online tournaments going on lately that need as much recognition as they can get. Right. I know Ep.6 has been doing weekly cups as well. We've had the TANCs, the tanks coming on. The finals coming up pretty soon here from Attico or Deco. I don't know how to pronounce his name. The fellow in Germany there, Oriel Stormgate, I think is how you pronounce it. He had a fantastic event as well. Not to toot our own horns too much, but Snogstar has been absolutely ripping through so many online tournaments lately. Just the finals are winning almost every tournament that he's gone into, which has been fantastic to watch because the kid's an absolute demon. And there's more to come. Like I know there's a lot more Stormgate tournaments in the making. I know there's a lot of official events still coming down the pipeline as well. So I feel like we're just getting into the juicy era of Stormgate esports, and we're only in a month in. We're only a month into the early access, and we're already seeing all this high level gameplay, all these great events that, just gives you a lot of hope for the future of the game.
Yeah, the grassroots community has been really fantastic for this game. So many show matches, tournaments. They're throwing up money prizes already, and really good quality productions. Everyone's having fun practicing for these things, even the smaller tournaments. It really feels like the old days of StarCraft beta before we had like MLG and WCS and
GSL and all these stuff.
Yeah, it's like those early days, and
Yeah,
I appreciate these times because
me too.
everyone's getting to know each other, having fun, winning some money. It's nothing super on the line yet, but there's a community and people who appreciate the game, and I'm having a blast as a player, and I'm thankful people like Ariel Apoptosis, Chicken Man, Beowulf, everyone else are hosting tournaments for us from the grassroots side of things.
Absolutely. And doing so good with it too. And like you said, now because it's kind of like everyone's trying to kind of forge their own name in the early days of Stormgate, right? Like even if it's only like a $50 cup, people are putting in a lot of effort to make sure that they win that tournament just for the namesake that goes into it, the practice that goes into it, and trying to solidify themselves as a top player early on, which is exciting. You miss out on those times, especially now when you look back at StarCraft 2, right? You're not going to have any new names really pop up through the scene. You kind of have your solidified top 16 players in the world who are going to constantly kind of be in that position, right? So it removes that the storyline factor. Even though
storyline's important, right? Like that's everyone's legacy. Like even for like me, like I won a bunch of tournaments for no prize money. That's why I'm getting invited to all this Stormgate stuff because I cemented my legacy early on.
Yeah.
My friend Huck, I'm sure most people listening probably know Huck. He's one of the most cemented legacies in RTS ever, right? But like he got most of it from winning smaller tournaments. I don't think people realize, even Huck mentions like, the most prize money I ever won for a tournament was like $5,000. Like that's the most he's ever won. But his legacy is cemented because he played in the early days, back when like namesake mattered. It wasn't all about the money.
Is that including like his MLG win and then his IPL win and stuff like that? Is that kind of in the same boat?
I think MLG was his biggest win.
Yeah.
Which was $5,000.
I guess after the prize boost,
I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Keep in mind he competed in the early days.
Right.
So, I'm looking it up right now, but it's something along the lines of that. Very different times.
Very different times, especially when you go from that to Clem just winning $400,000 at the Esports World Cup, right? It's a very different landscape from where it used to be. Esports as a whole is obviously, but that's a topic for another episode.
Yeah.
So going into closing statements here, guys, we really wanted just to kind of have this podcast. We haven't had the opportunity to film it as regularly as we want to. I think I say this every time. We're trying to get onto a more solidified schedule, but with the launch of early access, obviously we wanted Theory to practice as much as he could, and he was traveling a lot. He didn't really have. There was like a 3-week period there where you were barely home at all since early access. So now they've had the chance to acclimate back to life in North America. We'll try and keep these podcasts rolling out quite a bit more often, especially now that there's more to talk about with games being released. But yeah, before you head off, Theory, is there anything else that you want to add before we close it down for the day?
I think we covered a lot of good stuff. But yeah, the games are out now. We can kind of keep the ball rolling with these episodes, invite players on. Let us know in the comments who you'd like to see, and we'll try to invite them on to talk, whether it's a pro, a caster, or whoever. We'll see what we can do.
Yeah, maybe some Frost Giant people if they're available.
Yeah, devs, maybe from other games too. We are also interested in games like battleaces, Eurospace, and stuff. So yeah, just let us know what you'd like to see and what you like the most in these videos to hear about, whether it's tournament coverage, aftermath coverage, game coverage, whatever you want to hear about.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, mix of both. We're an esports organization, RTS organization focused right now. So any RTS related esports, let us know what you enjoy, and we'll try to make sure that happens. We're here to entertain you guys and keep you informed, give you guys our opinions on things going on. So with that being said, guys, thanks again for tuning in to another episode of Supply Cap. My name has been Matthew Mulholland, my co-host Theory. We appreciate you guys tuning in and enjoying, and we hope to see you in the next one. All right, take care. Bye-bye.